Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our commitment is to help, hope, and healing of our veteran family and our nation. I'm Jim Blythe, a U.S. Navy veteran and a certified senior advisor. Join us as we continue the mission of leadership and commitment to our communities and our great country. Why, you never know where we're going to go or who you're going to meet. We invite you to join in, plug in, and share in what we do. This is your Veterans Impact Show. Welcome aboard. We've got a really hot day. Well, yeah, it's supposed to be about 109 here in Dallas today. I want to introduce you to Cedric White. He is my co-host. He is my pastor. And let me tell you, he is probably the best marriage counselor I know of for veterans, active duty military. He goes all over the country for the DOD and for veterans. This is important because we're bringing help, we're bringing hope, and we're bringing healing. But today we have a super special guest, a good friend of mine who we started broadcasting with you when you first ran for the congressional district. Meet Keith Self, Congressman Keith Self from the 3rd District, also U.S. Army Academy graduate, U.S. Army for what, 25, 30 years?
25 years.
25 years. And you came out as a lieutenant colonel?
I did.
Wow. Let me tell you, and you were in Special Forces. Tell us a little bit about your military career, what you did, please.
Well, yeah, I was an airborne ranger when I graduated from West Point, so I took care of that early. Started out in the 82nd Airborne Division with 2nd of the 325 Infantry. I spent my first tour with the 82nd. I then went to Special Forces qualification course. I was with the Forward Deployed Battalion in Germany, 1st of the 10th SF. I went back to Fort Bragg for more Special Forces and another tour with the 82nd. I did have a heavy tour at Fort Carson, and then I got into the joint world. So I was in the embassy in Cairo, Egypt.
Wow.
I served in the Pentagon. I served in the European Command in Germany. I served in the NATO military headquarters, known as SHAPE, in Belgium. And then I actually got recalled to go work for Tommy Franks in Qatar and Afghanistan. So that's kind of nutshell.
Well, you have a very unique perspective. And I wanted to make a point of this is you have spent time in cultures in the Middle East, in countries that have Sharia law, in countries that practice these things. So you are also right now, you and the other Congressman,
Chip Roy,
okay, are leading the charge in the, I'm going to say anti-Sharia Act. It's not anti-Muslim, it's anti-Sharia.
The Sharia Free America Caucus is leading this effort because, Jim, I can't tell you how fast the Islamization of America is happening, particularly here in Texas. I'm very concerned that we are losing Texas to the Islamization that's happening all around us. People are just not understanding the danger because not only did I serve in those countries we talked about, the Muslim countries, but also served with the IDF while I was in Germany. I traveled there because at the time they were under Central Command. So I saw a lot of what the IDF had to deal with in Israel and in the environs. So Sharia, let's just talk about Islam in general.
Because I was going to ask you, Congressman, before we jump into that aspect, can you, at an 8th grade level, explain Sharia law? What the effect of it, what it actually is, so those who are looking and listening can understand, okay, when we say Sharia law, here's the concern.
Yeah, Islam is a political ideology that's governed by the Quran.
Right.
And the bottom line is what you and I understand as matters of conscience, faith, does not exist under Islam. It is totally command driven. Even the 5 times of prayer a day, what you say in those prayers. And then, so it's a political ideology. And it, frankly, and I can show you dozens of videos that for some reason the imams across America today are openly preaching sedition against the U.S. Constitution. So the bottom line that we are fighting against is Sharia law, which governs Islam, intends to supplant, replace the U.S. Constitution, because they believe that Sharia law stands above every human law, to include the U.S. Constitution.
Now, within Sharia law, then if a father is unhappy and his daughter goes out with the wrong guy, he can literally have her killed. True?
That is absolutely true. So this is the way we're approaching this. Look, again, matters of faith belong to the individual. But under our law, conduct is governed under the law. So you just mentioned honor killings. If your daughter dishonors the family, you can kill her. Polygamy is totally authorized. Child marriage is totally authorized. Beating your wife. Now, you're not supposed to break your wife's bones, but you can discipline her by beating her. So these are things that under the U.S. law are not legal.
Right. And so that's being brought or purpose to be here in our community, in our country. That's what the Islamic faith is trying to bring.
This is not theory, Cedric.
Okay.
They're not
honor killings have happened in North Texas.
And that's the point I want to make sure we explain. I want to make sure that we're sharing. Here's some facts of what's going on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
dogs, look, dogs are very important to Americans, especially Texans.
Right.
But they are haram under Islam. They're forbidden. So we have had examples of Muslims telling people you cannot walk your dog on the sidewalk, the public sidewalk, because it offends me.
Okay.
We've had imams in Houston going from door to door in stores and telling you can't sell that, like alcohol, because it's haram. It's forbidden. So they are now telling store owners you can't do that because it offends Muslims. It's not allowed under Islam.
So they're saying you can't offend Muslims. Wow, they're making their own rules. Here is the thing, too, that a lot of people don't understand, but I do. I have read the Quran. I had a teacher many years ago who was from India, and he had studied under masters of the East. He'd studied Hindu. He'd lived in Bahrain. He studied the Quran. He went to a Bible college in Pennsylvania. And one of the points he made is within the Quran, there is, and I can't remember the verse, but it's quoted a lot. If you run into a Christian or a non-believer, if you can't convert them, you pull out your sword and kill them. It says exactly that. The other part of that is it's okay. I don't remember the specifics, but it's okay. Lie, cheat, steal, do whatever you need to do to a non-believer.
The concept is taqiyya. Under Islam, taqiyya, in order to further the cause of Sharia law, Islam, you can lie to a non-Muslim. And then we can't forget in Great Britain today what's happening. This is not theory. 250,000 non-Muslim girls have been abducted off of the street by rape gangs. They then get passed around to the gang members, and then they're put back on the street. Rape is horrific enough. But listen to this. The police have arrested some of these girls for public drunkenness as opposed to arresting the rape gang members. This is not what we want in America.
And we're seeing is now there's backlash in Europe, in England, in France, in Belgium. And so we not only don't want it here, but it's very, very dangerous. It's horrifically dangerous to a community. I saw a thing posted on social media, and I couldn't believe Texas has got one of the largest number of mosques in the United States. I can't remember the exact number. I want to say it's up in the 800 numbers. Is it that high?
I don't know exactly for Texas, but I know North Texas is ground zero for growth.
Yeah.
There have been like 50 in the last 2 years being built.
And Texas is ground zero because as Texas goes, and you've said this in some of your social media, if Texas goes, the nation goes. We are one of the very, very, very few states that is totally self-sufficient.
So, Congressman, what I hear you saying, I want to make sure we're clear. It's not so much being Muslim, if you would, but to try to prevent Islamic law from taking place here in the U.S. I guess I'm just trying to make sure we have the concept, because I mean, to practice whatever religion you want is fine, right, constitutionally, but to try and turn or to take laws from the Islamic State and start to enforce them here seems like what we're talking about.
There are 57 Islamic countries around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them were done by infiltration,
Mm-hmm.
taking power, not by conquest, not by
Gotcha.
military conquest.
Right.
That's exactly what we're trying to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Because make no mistake about it, the Quran teaches you will supplant the culture in which you go.
Gotcha.
You will. That is their command, and that's why I go back to one of my first points. Islam means submission.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the word Islam means.
Mm-hmm.
It means submission. It is a political ideology that is built on commands to dominate.
Right.
We have a very good friend who was in Kuwait, who is from Kuwait, was in the United States when the Saddam Hussein attacked and went into Kuwait. She and her family ended up staying here, and it was about 8 years. She finally heard the message and goes, "This is totally the opposite," and heard the gospel. And she now goes around the world teaching about Christianity. And so many times she said, they go, "Well, that's amazing. I'm being taught to hate and kill.
Mm-hmm.
And here you're talking about loving your enemies."
Well, you have to understand their concept of Allah, of God.
Right.
There is no forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
There's no grace as we understand it. There's none of that. There's no love. Love does not exist in Islam.
Mm-mm.
It is submission.
Okay.
It is a command to submit. So us non-Muslims, we have a choice. We can either live as dhimmi, which is a second-class citizen.
Right.
We can pay the jizya tax. It's a tax you pay if you live under the Muslims,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't want to convert.
Right.
Or then when it becomes time for them to take power, you then either convert or you die.
Mm. Okay.
Frightening proposition, but it's happening in Europe. It's happened. Also, Iran. A friend of mine actually knew the Shah of Iran quite well. And he said it was a fabulous country, and it was open. And the Baha'i faith, I think, got started there as well, which is sort of a crossbred faith, but it's not Islam at all. And he said, man, this came in promising everything in the world. And the minute it was in, it took just what you said, took control of the country.
Iran is one of those countries that I actually have hope for because they were very educated, very prosperous nation, very liberated nation. And there's a very famous picture of two young girls when the Ayatollah took over celebrating it. One of those girls was killed almost immediately. The other one immigrated out and escaped.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly what happens. And frankly, Jimmy Carter, President Carter, was one of the reasons that the Shah fell. We just have to be honest about that.
I was getting ready to go there. You read my mind because it was tragic that he didn't back the Shah. He didn't do that. The Shah did all of his pilot training in the United States. I think his son Reza also did pilot training up at Sherwood Air Force Base. These people were looking forward, and you're right, it was probably the most prosperous country in the Middle East at that time.
And educated. Now, the Shah, he did have the secret police. It was not a liberal democracy. I'm not trying to say that. But it was not the tyranny of Islam.
Right.
And that's not something that the world needs more of. Because one of the reasons I think they're fighting so hard, Muslim Brotherhood and everybody else, is if Iran goes back, Iran will be a second huge ally of Israel in the Middle East, which will change some of the other countries. And I think that everything that the IRGC and the crazies are doing is driving some of those countries away from that.
Well, we see some very troubling trends in the Middle East today. This military alliance that even Saudi Arabia has joined now with Turkey and some of the others, that's disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're a long way from Iran getting free of the grip of the Ayatollahs. We're a long way from that. But in the meantime, some of the other countries are developing alliances that are not helpful.
That are opening the door.
I am very concerned about Turkey and Israel, because they are almost coming to blows in Syria. So I think that Turkey, because if Iran does go down, who's going to be the big dog on the block in the Middle East?
Right.
Turkey is certainly going to vie for that. And Erdogan has basically turned Turkey into a military dictatorship today. It's no longer the secular Turkey that Ataturk established back at the founding. So I'm very concerned about what's happening around Iran.
Oh, without a doubt. And it's had such an impact on the whole world. I do have to absolutely thank President Trump for having the courage to stand up, because he's the first. Carter, you're right, absolutely was the reason that they were able to take over. And every other president, God bless George Bush, didn't do anything.
They said they would, but they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So for 47 years, Iran has basically been at war with the United States. And now President Trump has done something about it. I've been involved in Iran since 1979.
Oh, wow.
Our Special Forces team had just come out of a hostage rescue live fire house. When the hostages were taken, we were actually put on alert. I think it was just a European alert, not a Pentagon alert, to go get them while they were still in one room.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as soon as they dispersed them, that was impossible. And then 10:04, I planned 10:04 in the 82nd. So I've been planning Iran sort of issues since 1979.
Good grief.
Right.
Well, let's pray that something brings that to an end.
Yes.
Because there are very, very good people that are there, the Persians. And I've got a lot of Persian friends. I've had a lot of Persian friends for a long time. And I got to tell you, they don't deserve what's happened to them.
You said that very well, because they prefer to be called Persians, not Iranians.
Well,
They
that's
want
why
to be called Persians.
I've got a lot of them. Matter of fact, a friend of mine that my son and I have known with, a beautiful flame, his father was a brigadier general. All right, we're going to take a break to hear from all of our partners. I want to say a very special thank you to Fairway Independent Mortgage, the company I work with. My NMLS number is 311-548, and our corporate one is 2289. We're an equal opportunity lender. We're here for you. Also, Symbios Health, we're here to heal you. Symbios is alive and well, and we're doing great things. So look us up at symbiosccn.com. We'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. This is your Veterans Impact Show. Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Hearts Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation. I got to tell you, I was thinking about something. We have something in common, and you're going to laugh. You were 82nd Airborne. My Uncle John, that I was very, very close to, was in Bastogne, 82nd. And I asked him one time, what was it like? He never hardly talked about it, but he said it was cold. So, he was there for that situation. I think this is so important. People can go to your website, because there are things posted about the Sharia law, and learn more about it. And you have a tremendous staff, Natalie and Michelle and Ed. All the people on your staff are more than glad to answer questions and help. Now let's shift just a little bit from the world issues to a big national issue, which is big for you, is the debt situation. You've spoken about that quite a few times. Tell us where you think we are and what we need to do to try and start fixing that.
The debt, both Sharia law and the debt, in my mind, are the existential threats to our constitutional republic, because we cannot survive as a constitutional republic if those two things take control. So our debt just crossed $40 trillion. Now, that's only our publicly held debt. When we talk about all of the entitlements programs, we're well over $100 trillion in actual debt. But let's just talk about the publicly held debt. When we dumped $9 trillion into the economy during COVID, remember, we shut down our economy. We printed money to send checks to people, businesses and individuals. That was $9 trillion of that $40 trillion just over those few years of COVID. So now we're paying the price because we had almost no cost money there for a long time. They held the interest rate so low, money was actually almost free. Well, now we see that picking up to 5% and above. Now it costs real money just to service the debt. So we're over $1 trillion today in debt service. So we spend about $7 trillion a year in the federal government. Over $1 trillion now, 1/7 of it, more than 1/7 of it, is simply servicing the debt. So that's the situation in which we find ourselves. And then I'll throw into this mix, Social Security in 2032 goes insolvent. So we have to do something, or every Social Security recipient will take a 22% cut off the top. So what are you going to do? You're going to raise taxes, you're going to reduce benefits, you're going to increase eligibility age. So this is a real issue that is starting to impact the rest of it, because the opportunity cost of $1 trillion is large. It's huge because we have to spend it on interest payments. We don't have it to spend on other things.
Okay. Why, for instance, and I've got a finance background, been in a degree in it. I understand it. When you have compound interest, it escalates at a geometric progression. When you have an interest rate that's, because it used to be 2.5 to 3, now it's 5.5 to 6. You're doubling it. Why hasn't the Fed said, hey, I've got some help here for you. Let's start cutting interest rates? They haven't done that.
That's correct, because they're worried about inflation. They haven't gotten down to some mythical level. So our debt all the time has to be refinanced, as you well know.
Yeah.
Because our debt is staggered over time, both short-term and long-term. So as it becomes due, it's paid off and we have to refinance it. So we're paying off 1.5% debt in exchange for 5% debt now.
Yeah,
as an example.
One of the things they said, we're going to start selling off some of this older, doesn't trade long-term debt. Well, that stuff is just so low, it's ridiculous. And you're taking a good thing in it. I think that's a bad policy. But let me back up just a second. My opinion, and Cedric, you and I have talked about this. Inflation is not just interest rates. For instance, oil, petroleum, energy, everything we touch, everything in this room, everything we eat, everything we have anything to do with, A, has to be transported, B, has to be manufactured. So you got to have energy. You can't take the going back to the Obama administration, because a friend of mine worked in the oil industry. Their deal was to drive gasoline way up, $6 a gallon, diesel up to $10 a gallon, to force people to quit driving fossil fuel vehicles. They cut way back. Our oil production was cut way back. Biden continued that as well, only more strenuously. I think we need to do, and as I understand it, didn't Canada just agree to let us reopen that Keystone pipeline and get that going?
They did, but I don't know what this latest
I know
Canada will do to that, but they did.
I haven't been on the news this morning, but we've got to do things to basically bring the cost of living down, and the interest rate is a huge aspect of it, but it's only there's other things that have to be done.
Well, we've also devalued the dollar by 97% over time. Once we came off of the gold standard, and I understand why Nixon did that, but people were taking our gold to pay to pay our debt to them. So I know why the dollar has declined 97%. So you know what a dollar used to buy, it doesn't buy anymore. Right. That's why you see these tremendous prices. But you're right. Energy is the basis of civilization. Everything we do takes energy. Everything we wear takes energy. Everything we have takes energy of some sort. So look, we've got the Venezuela oil coming in now. We are oil dominant. We are energy dominant today with our oil and gas, and adding the Venezuela, and China's hurting. So it's not just American oil energy. It's also what Trump is doing to reorganize the world. The Strait of Hormuz is getting all the attention today, but we're actually getting oil through it. So the entire world economy depends on energy.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to have to take another break for just a second to hear from. And Cedric, when we come back, I want to talk very quickly about managing your budget, because that's part of what you do in your marriage management deal.
Yes.
And you are one big supporter of this program because you weigh more than I do. We're going to be right back after all these words. This is your Veterans Impact Show. Stay with us. Join us. Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Hearts Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. I'm Cedric White, the co-host. I'm here with Big Jim Blight, our host here, and our special guest, Congressman Keith Self. Here, we're talking about some very significant things. We're talking about how Sharia law is trying to affect the United States. We're talking about budgeting and how our country needs to work out some of the budgeting situations because of the debt, right? From a personal perspective, as you were talking about, Jim, before you came, we deal with couples quite often, and quite often finances is the biggest problem that they have. Finances and teaching people not to try to look prosperous, but to be wealthy. Big difference. And a lot of people like to showcase. It's not about showcasing. It's about being able to make it day to day and budgeting. Same thing, whether it's in your household or whether it's in Congress, we need to work on our budget. And that's what we're talking about with Congressman Self.
Absolutely. Congressman, where do you want to go now in this conversation? Because I'm really enjoying it. We could be here for 2 hours, and that really can mess up your day. But what do you think are some of the things? I think the Save America Act is something that I'm very, very enthusiastic about, that you're leading the charge on that as well.
I think the Save America Act is probably the most important bill that we can pass this decade, because it is that important. Look, we used to say illegals are not voting in our elections. Now we're finding thousands and thousands that have done so. We just need to realize that our elections must be secure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the Save America Act does. It says you have to prove your citizenship before you register.
Okay.
And then you have to have a photo ID when you actually vote. That would do more to secure our elections than any other thing. This is the most important bill we could pass in probably a decade.
So, Congressman, why do you think people would fight against just showing an ID, just proving that they are American citizens? Why do you think people fight against that?
Why do you think certain people fight against repatriating, deporting the illegal aliens?
Mm-hmm.
Those are their future voters.
Okay.
So they want them to stay here. And it's so easy to get a voting card today.
Mm.
You check the little box on your driver's license registration,
Right.
a box, you check.
Yeah.
I am a citizen.
Okay.
What does that prove?
Right.
It proves nothing.
Okay.
So we need to clean up the system, and this is the way we clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
Citizenship to register, ID to vote.
Right.
No one should have any problem with that, because
None whatsoever.
Americans should determine our elections.
Right. I agree.
Absolutely. And one of the Democrats came out and said, if you do that, we'll lose every election. Because I think the Democratic Party has depended on and pushed this, oh, you're poor, you're not going to be able to vote. You are going to be able to vote. And I work with seniors, which you know, and a lot of times to a certain age, they don't have driver's license anymore. It's not that hard to get a state ID. It's the same thing.
Right.
It doesn't cost anything.
The the most ridiculous argument is women won't be able to vote because they got married. How ridiculous is that? Women get married all the time and change their credit cards, change their voting registration, change everything. It's a ridiculous argument.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb politically. I think the Democratic Party has been hijacked. I think in the nation we need to have two-party system for ideas and checks and balances. But I think it's been hijacked to such a level that it's frightening to me what some of them are saying.
The Democratic Socialists of America are holding tremendous sway over the Democrat Party today. And I posted this morning, this election, this contrast election, which has been a contrast election, we've known it. It's now no longer normal versus crazy. It's now normal versus destructive.
Yes.
Because these people are preaching, they're going after our institutions now. They want to change the Supreme Court. They want to change, they don't want to do away with the Senate. These ideas are ridiculous. They're ludicrous. So I mean, you're being very kind, Jim.
Okay, I'm going to be unkind because I'm an ordained chaplain. Cedric is an ordained minister. Let me tell you something. What I have seen, and I saw in that meeting that I was there with you and that situation happened, it's demonic. There's no other way you can get around it. It's demonic is what they're doing. And when Germany was taken over by Adolf Hitler, what was the first thing he did? He went after the Jews. That was demonic because they didn't get the atomic bomb in time simply because they gotten rid of all the Jews who were the brains behind building that. But it's demonic, and that's so hard for people. They are like, oh no, you're just talking. No, it's true. When you look at all of these things, biblically, any other religion and culture except Islam, even you look at Islam. Did you ever read Salman Rushdie's book, Satanic Verses?
I've read summaries of it. I have not read the whole book, no.
You know, basically what he's saying, even in the title, is it's satanic. That's a frightening thing to think about.
Yeah, and you remember he was under fatwa that something like 20 years later, they executed. They blinded him, almost killed him. So he paid the price. But I want to point out something else. There was an interviewer that interviewed Eichmann, who was one of the real butchers of the Nazi regime.
Adolf Eichmann, yeah.
Adolf Eichmann.
Right.
She said she came up with this concept of the banality of evil. And I think that's what we're seeing today. People don't recognize it because it doesn't look evil. Because what was he before the war? I think he was a salesman. I think he was a shoe salesman.
Yeah.
A traveling shoe salesman. And yet he became one of the butchers of the Nazi regime. And she said, I interviewed him. He looked like just a normal man. But the evil that he did, that's what we're fighting today. Americans don't understand the evil that is facing us. The banality of evil is resurrecting its ugly head, and people are not seeing it. Just like you would see Adolf Eichmann and you'd say he's a normal man.
Yeah.
But he was capable of evil. So
what we see quite often is, and people get stuck, I think, in the midst of, okay, let's separate, a decent, just everyday Muslim, right, person that they're not trying to do anything, from those who are trying to come in and infiltrate the country, infiltrate our law to try to change America. And that, I think that's the problem that we have, because I don't have a problem. I mean, I'm a Christian. There's nothing anybody can say to me to make me change my mind from that. If you're a Muslim, all right, God bless you. I pray for you and so forth and so on. As long as you're not coming against our way of life here in this country, our laws here in this country, then, hey, we can live side by side, and, it's in God's hand after that. But if you're coming here and you're trying to bring Islamic law here and change our culture, then we have a problem.
Cedric, you bring up a great point. You really do. What about those secular Muslims who just want to live their lives, go to the mosque? The problem is when the jihadists take control, they will have the same choice we do.
Right.
Are you going to submit or are you going to die? Because what is the penalty for leaving Islam? Anyone wants to leave Islam, it's death.
Death.
It's death. They will face that.
Right.
I feel for those people who want to assimilate,
Right.
who want to just live their lives, but they will face that choice.
Well, that friend of ours, that young lady, she lives under the constant threat and terror, even from her own family.
That's right.
And that's crazy. That is crazy.
Well, that's the evil aspect. That
Absolutely.
That's the evil aspect of it. Again, our Constitution, right, protects us in a way of religious freedoms, right? But that's religious freedom. That's not you bringing your law over here and then infecting our country and trying to turn us into an Islamic state.
Well
That's
said.
the problem. That's the problem.
Okay, guys, let's have a little bit of a change. We've got a healthcare insurance problem in this nation. It's terrible. It's horrible. It's so expensive. And all this came about during the Obamacare. What can be done? Or is this thing just out of control to basically reel this in and change it back? Change it. Can it be?
Yeah, I think it can be. I think we need to put the doctors back in charge, take the insurance companies out of the middle of this, make it a doctor-patient relationship. I want transparency in hospital costs, and I want total transparency in what you're going to pay, because right now, what you pay as a person is far less than your insurance company, but most people use their insurance company. But I bet if you negotiate it as a person, as an individual, as a patient, it'd be far less. We need to basically, I think there's something about and I realize we live in a capitalist society, but when the drug companies have so much sway over the public opinion of medicines, how do we handle that?
Right.
Because their advertising, they have a tremendous lobby.
Oh, yeah.
They're probably the most powerful lobby in America, or certainly one of them. We need to get a handle on that. So it's transparency, it's doctor-patient relationship, it's letting doctors doctor as opposed to filling out paperwork. The government needs to get out of the way. We need to let doctors be doctors, not employees of some conglomerate. We need to let the patients have some sort of say-so with the total transparency. I don't see this as really hard. The government's got to get out of the way and make sure that the doctor and the patient are the main people involved in this.
I've got a good example. My cardiologist had a heart attack in 2013. I'm doing great. Every year I take my test. I maintain my FAA Class 3 medical. And a couple of years ago, or 3 years ago, they made me switch from one of the medications that I take to Eliquis. Eliquis is about the most expensive of those that you can get. And the FAA said, you don't take Eliquis, you don't fly. This is what my cardiologist, who knows me, and I see once a year, and I do all of these tests with him. And this is what he thinks I need. And now you're saying, I got to do that. Right. I'm not happy with that. Right. I don't think that was kosher.
Right.
But if I go, no, then David goes, I ain't signing your deal. That's not right. Yet there's no, best I can tell, there's no way to, no recourse whatsoever. Yeah. The federal bureaucracy, and you know what I've been through with the other situation, the federal bureaucracy is part of our problem. You said, let the government get out of it and let the doctors take over. So I couldn't agree with you more. And I take my Eliquis. You know, because I still want to fly. I think these things are so critically important. But one of the other things that I think Cedric and I are both really into the next generation. And as you know, Diane and I are instructors. We work with Sea Cadets, which is, it's not Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts by a long shot, but you got Young Marines, you got the Civil Air Patrol, you've got your junior ROTC, Army ROTC. Even in the high schools, you have Navy ROTC, you got a Marine Corps ROTC in some of them. These programs are so tremendously important. And we've been having funding problems with them, as I understand. Chuck Wright was telling me how he went and lobbied to make sure young Marines got taken care of. But going past that, you as a congressman are always working to get young people signed up for the academies and the other programs. So tell us a little bit about that, please.
Well, first of all, we've got an entire pipeline of preparing young people to serve in the military. My most immediate issue, and one that is vitally important to me, is getting our best and brightest young men and women to the service academies, because we will go in harm's way again. And when we do, I want the best and the brightest to be leading our enlisted troops. So you can go to my website, keithself.house.gov. You can start getting information. We have an informational session in September that I would encourage you to sign up and come to, because you'll hear from the academies themselves, you'll hear from the LNOs, you'll hear from my staff. You'll just gather information about whether the service academy is for you or not. We also have the ROTC programs. I've served with some magnificent officers that were ROTC graduates, because they actually send more officers than the academies do. The academies sit at the top, of course, and then the ROTC, and then the junior ROTC at the high school. If you're at all thinking about the military, you need to get involved in the junior ROTC in the high schools to see if it's for you, to get in, to kind of get a taste of it. Then you've got the Civil Air Patrol, you've got the Sea Cadets. So there are many ways for young people to tip their toe in the water to see if the military is going to be for them. I have to tell you about a young man in my district, graduated from high school in May, went to the Marine Corps, wanted to serve. This kid could have played D1 football, wanted to serve, enlisted in the Marine Corps. Unfortunately, he died during PT session. But that's the heart that I want to see in our young people. They want to value service to America in the military services. I went to his funeral on Saturday, and just a tremendous loss, a fine young man. But that's the heart that we need to impart into our young people, that the military is a noble endeavor.
Let me go a little bit of a step further, because we are involved with Sea Cadets, and I see it all the time. And I also live in Princeton, and I have been one with Navy League providing the annual scholarships and awards to the naval ROTCs that are in some of the school districts. These kids work so hard. They learn so much. And I am just amazed at what they're learning in these programs. STEM, medical, military, you name it, they're doing it. And they're learning discipline and leadership, which, who runs the military? You know, Woody Beale, Admiral Beale, you know Woody. He said to me, "Hey, Jim, who runs the Navy?" I said, "The Chief Petty Officer." Who really runs the Army? The senior NCOs.
It is different between the United States military and almost every other military. Our backbone of the NCOs.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after these words. We're here for you. Follow us, join us, be a part of Health, Hope, and Healing. We're here to also talk about suicide prevention and other things, so go take a look. We've got a lot of programs on that, and that is very near and dear to our heart. So we'll be right back after these words. And this is your Veterans Impact Show. Thank you for being on board. Thank you for joining Congressman Self. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Hearts Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation. Congressman, is this not the fastest hour you've ever seen in your life?
I'll say. Where did the time go?
Where did it go? We've talked about the importance of these schools. And one of the things that I know is that we have had such a reduction in families in terms of parenting. So many households are single parent families now across the board. The military gives a kid, a young man, young woman. They take both men and women, kids, little boys and little girls. They help them grow. They help them get responsibility. It's tremendously important to give a child a chance to have some responsibility.
Absolutely. It's the one thing that anyone that ETS is out of the military, that leaves the military, has. It's responsibility and accountability. You get taught that from day one because you have to show up, you have to be in the proper uniform, and you have to be ready to go. And that translates into a business environment today that is looking for that.
Oh, huge.
Because it absolutely, it's a huge problem just to get somebody that understands when I work, I show up on time, I have a sense of responsibility, I do what I'm told. It's very necessary in today's business environment, and the military supplying it.
Absolutely.
I use the example. I was 19. I was married, had a daughter. I was an E2, and I made it work. And so when I see young men, I've got 2 sons. I tell them, listen, I was 19, I had a wife and a kid, right? And I was having E2 salary, but I made it work. I was on the ship. I did what was necessary, right? And it taught me discipline in the way of finances, in the way of running my household, all of those things which transferred when I got out of the Navy. All of that transferred out. I learned so much from a disciplined perspective. I learned so much in the way of taking care of business and not making excuses. I tell people all the time, our young people today, they're much smarter, but they're much weaker. And the military will bring some things out of them, will teach them some discipline that they'd never get. Honestly, I'd say even in just going to college, the military gives you something that you're not going to get. The U.S. military, you're not going to get anywhere else. I believe that.
So what would you say? You're in the Army, 25 years, a lieutenant colonel, you're a congressman. You do so much for the military. You serve on the Veterans Affairs Committee, I believe.
I do.
What would you say to a young man or woman who comes to you or is listening to you about joining the military? Because so many people are saying, oh, no, that's terrible. I mean, I have had parents tell me, I'm not about to let my kid go in the military.
Right.
Well, I will tell you that used to be the case, but our recruiting right now is
Over the top?
Over the top.
That's great to hear.
And that's because, why is that? It's because now our national leadership says we are going to have excellence. We are going to strive for excellence. We are going to do the basics. We're going to do PT. We're going to train. We're going to have an excellent unit as a whole. So our recruiting is doing very well today. I will tell you, we need to also make sure that the E2s in our military are paid well enough so that they're not on food stamps. Because just a few short years ago, we had junior enlisted that were on food stamps.
Yeah.
That is not right.
Right. I agree.
That is not right.
Right.
The second thing is we need to treat our veterans right.
Yes.
Because I am absolutely convinced that the way you treat your veterans goes a long way to how your young people view veterans.
I agree.
If we honor veterans, they're going to say it's an honorable, noble endeavor. If we don't, if we treat people like we did the Vietnam veterans, they'll say, I don't want to be abused like that.
Right.
So that also goes a long way to how we build our military. So excellence today, enough pay so that our junior enlisted are not on food stamps, and making sure that we treat our veterans right. And I think we'll be a lot better off.
Oh, without a doubt. And one of the things that Cedric and I make a point of is that we as veterans have a role to play in the community, to be the grandfather for the grandfatherless, to be the father for the fatherless, to get out there and to share. And I know there's a lot of men and women who are incapacitated, but you can do something. And there's opportunities. For instance, he's a very good friend of mine. He is going with Doc Ballard, who's a Medal of Honor winner, and they're promoting using ham radios. A young person who maybe is got spina bifida or other problems, they can use a ham radio and communicate. They're building communication. And that was one of the points that I always wanted to make about the military. I became a team member. I became a team leader. And I learned how to do that because of the men and women that I served with. It was amazing. And as a result, I learned to do things that most people would go, how did you do that, Jim? How did you get that zoning? How did you get those people working together? And I'll tell you something else. That was the best thing that I ever ran into in terms of racial relations, because I served right alongside of it. And I have met some of the most incredible people. We interviewed the son of General Body, Tuskegee Airman. All right, guys, it's time to wrap this up. Cedric, would you close us with a prayer?
Most definitely. Most definitely. So, Father God, we thank you for the day. We thank you for this country. We thank you for a place where we can worship you openly. We thank you for those who serve you, who have served, who are serving right now, who have a heart to serve. Lord, we ask that you keep your hands on this country, keep your hands on the leadership, keep your hands on every individual, every citizen here, and continue to make us one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In your name we pray. Amen.
Congressman Self, thank you very much for being on board with us today.
Thank you so much.
And I got to tell you, this has been a great program. Share this, get it out there, get people involved. We want to help Americans. We want the Veterans Impact Show to stand for veterans who stand for bringing this nation back together. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for following us. And thank you for your service. Thank you. Have a great day. We love having you aboard.